That's right, Sasha. The 17-year-old female, who we can't identify because of the Youth Criminal Justice Act, made a brief court appearance in bail court this morning. She was remanded back into custody. Meanwhile, the lawyer for the accused tells CTV News she is, quote, shaken like a leaf. Her next court appearance is scheduled for June 12th. Sasha, that's right. This is one of the rivers that tends to flood. Even since this morning when I was here, the water has gone up at least by a few inches. Let's get to the situation, though, in Huntsville. This is some video shot earlier today. I was speaking with some construction workers working along the river. They tell me the water has increased by about 8 inches in the last 36 hours.
Kari?
Sasha, MPPs are back at work today after nearly a 2-month recess, and already politicians are posturing and positioning themselves ahead of a budget that is likely to plunge Ontario into a spring election. But the good news for taxpayers is the $4 million in deficits that were accrued in 2013 and the beginning of this year will be paid out of a reserve fund. But with all the wild weather, are historical averages really the right way to establish winter road budgets? I'll be putting that question to city officials as well as members of City Council tonight, and we'll have much more for you at 11:30. Well, Michelle, this election is really about a numbers game for the Liberals. They had 47 seats heading into this election. For them, the risk of losing the 4 seats north of Barrie could ultimately jeopardize their ability to maintain a minority government. Robert Wood is facing some very serious charges in connection with the mall collapse, specifically 2 counts of criminal negligence causing death and 1 count of criminal negligence causing bodily harm. If convicted, he could face life in prison. Wood won't go to trial until next year at the earliest. Wood's counsel was concerned that the findings of the inquiry slated for release this fall could jeopardize his client's chances of getting a fair trial.
He said at around midnight, this Sikorsky S-76 helicopter took off from Moosonee. That's about 550, 600 kilometers north of Sudbury. I can tell you that it did take off at around midnight, and shortly after takeoff, the Operations Center lost contact with this. Now search and rescue from Canadian Forces Base Trenton did fly up, and they did recover the aircraft and found, of course, 4 fatalities there. The Premier moments ago issued a statement. I'm going to read it to you now. Premier Wynne says, quote, "I am devastated to learn the deaths of 2 pilots and 2 paramedics following the crash of an Orange Air ambulance near Moosonee. The pilots and paramedics of Orange provide life-saving services in every region of this province, and my thoughts and prayers are with the friends and family of these brave individuals." Jackie.
What about Orange itself? Have they responded to this as well?
Yes, Jackie, we're expecting an update from Orange at 11:30 from their headquarters in Mississauga, but the CEO, Dr. Andrew McCallum, issued a statement this morning. He said, quote, "Everybody at Orange is deeply saddened by this tragic incident, and our hearts go out to the families and friends of those who lost their lives."
That's right, Brendan. We're here down at PDAC 2014. A woman at the hotel we're staying at described this to me as being the biggest thing in Toronto, aside from the Toronto International Film Festival. To put things into context, if you're familiar with this city, every hotel from Midtown at Yonge and Eglinton south to the waterfront is booked solid. Thousands of people from the mining industry, from Canada, but also all around the world are here for this event that started Sunday and that continues through to Wednesday. Now, Prime Minister Stephen Harper was the first sitting Prime Minister to attend PDAC. Today, he spoke about how the mining industry is a critical part of the Canadian economy and also spoke about how his government is investing in infrastructure critical to legacy projects. Well, Michelle, as you can see behind me, the skies have since cleared. Main roadways are now clear. Crews have been busy on them all day long. But it's those secondary roadways and residential streets that remain quite slick tonight. So as you heard in that report, police reminding motorists that if you don't have to, it might be best to stay inside tonight. Michelle? Well, Michelle, I got off the phone with Hydro One moments ago, and they say that it could be a while before power is restored for much of cottage country. A lady just walked over moments ago to say that the power has returned for areas in Port Carling. Now, as you heard in the report, the power is already back on in Parry Sound. But the latest figures are staggering, Michelle. Across the province, 125,000 people without power tonight, 1/3 of them right here in central Ontario. Michelle. She really is, Tamara, and it's been quite a year for Kathleen Wynne. She did stave off a quite large fight between Ontario teachers and the provincial government, but she struggled to take control of the agenda given the growing gas plant scandal. But today in our interview with her, she seemed quite confident and wasn't afraid to pull any punches towards the opposition. Now we're going to air 2 clips from that interview. The first one, I asked her about what she thought was some of the successes she had in her first year in office. But after nearly 120 days of testimony, as you mentioned off the top, Dalton McGuinty was the last to take the stand here at the Elliott Lake Mall inquiry. A lot of his testimony focused around his involvement in trying to reboot the rescue efforts here. It was only 2 days after the mall collapsed when rescuers said it was simply too dangerous and they pulled the plug.